Okay. All right. So this is a topic that comes up a lot in my coaching. And it's people, first of all, not being able to decide what they want. And then secondly, thank you, Jamie. Secondly, being able to feel it from a firm place and being able to express it to the people in their lives. So this is what we're going to be talking about. And I originally called the class How to Set Boundaries from a Place of Love and Vigor, which we are going to be doing that. But also, I think the theme is going to be how to decide and express your decisions. So I've done a class before on decision making with Enneagram Nines, but this is going to go a little bit further than that. Hold on, let me fix my view here. There we go. Okay. So we have over 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are subconscious. Let me move my camera over here. Okay. We're really practiced at thinking certain thoughts over and over again. And so like 90% of the thoughts that we think are thoughts that we just have on a regular basis every day. And we get really, really good at thinking certain things and then having these tendencies. So the really cool thing with the Enneagram that I've really loved since I've learned about it is bringing language and awareness to what those tendencies are. So if you all are Enneagram Nines, you know that we have certain tendencies when people come to us with requests. So what are some of those tendencies that you can think of that you just like automatically go to when people come to you with requests? Can you think of any of them?
I tend to be like, sure, I can do it without even like thinking about how it's going to impact me. I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll help.
Just always there to be the nice person, right? And you guys go ahead and just like chime in like Jamie just did if you want. That sometimes it's easier than typing it out. So that's one thing that we do is we just like are so quick to say yes before we've thought it through and decided if that's really what we wanted to do was say yes. Another thing that we do is we resort to indecision. So we just all of a sudden we're like, I don't know what I want to do. And we just decide that we can't decide. So, a lot of it has to do with avoiding conflict because we're afraid if we make a decision, then all of a sudden that's going to create conflict in our lives. And we don't like that, right? So if you're in the practice of thinking that if you think back, in the past and think about all the decisions that you have made in the past, and you're in the practice of thinking that there were some decisions that you shouldn't have made, and maybe that wasn't the right choice, that creates a conditioned tendency to not make decisions because we're afraid that we might regret it, just like what happened in the past. So we're going to talk today about a couple of things. One is our conditioned tendencies. Well, we talked about that, deciding that we can't decide, and then people pleasing. But we're gonna learn to decide. We're gonna talk about that, and then we're gonna practice what it feels like to feel consent in our body, and also just like making a decision according to what our body is telling us, if that makes sense. So that's our objective, is to do those two things today. All right. So here's a couple of truths about indecision. First of all is you get to decide if your decisions were the right choice from the past or they were the wrong choice. We think that there just is a right and a wrong. But the truth is, like, we get to decide, even if it was something that created a lot of hardship for us and a lot of things that we don't like, we get to decide at this time if those decisions were right for us at that point in our lives. Same thing goes for current decisions that we need to make. The reason why is because the decision is external. It's the circumstance. So I think most of you probably are familiar with the coaching model that I use. Can you guys see this? Is it close enough? Okay. Probably depends on how big your screen is, but the decision goes in the circumstance line. Okay. Circumstances do not create our feelings or our results. So the model is circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result, right? This line does not create this line. The circumstance does not create what the result is. It also doesn't create how we feel or what we do, our actions. The circumstance is just the plain old facts of what's going on in our lives. And when we think that feelings or results are outside of our control, then we're going to feel anxious and stressed and fearful about making a decision. Does that make sense? So if I recognize that I'm the one who creates my experience through the lenses at which I view things, or the meaning that I give to that, whatever it is, whether it happened to my children or someone I love or me, then I take back the control and there's no wrong decision. So the meaning is what determines your reality, and your thinking is what creates your experience, period. And that's really empowering to realize, because we can make decisions a lot quicker when we realize that I get to decide what this experience is going to be with my thoughts. Even though there's a lot of things that are out of our control, our thoughts, we do get to control. So that's really empowering. So for example, I recently said yes to a volunteer opportunity that I had. Someone that is high up in my area in my church asked if I would take a leadership position in our children's organization. It's a presidency position, and it requires a commitment, like some time, some meetings and things like that. And at first, when I was first asked to do it, I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, oh man, I'm so busy. I've got a big family. I've it business, just a lot going on. But as I thought about it, I remembered when I've done something similar to this in the past, how it really enriched my life, and how service brings me outside of myself and helps me to feel happier and all these things. And so I just decided, I'm like, I'm going to say yes to this, and I'm going to make it a definite yes, not just we'll see how this goes. And I'm just going to go all in on it. And I'm not going to be resentful of the requirements that it takes, the time. So, okay, so that's a yes. Now let's talk maybe. Let me see here what I have on this next page. Okay, sometimes maybe is okay. So sometimes we need a little bit more time to think about it, right? Like someone could ask us something and all of a sudden we're like, I don't know what I want the answer to be. And so maybe is okay. But here's what I want to tell you. Make sure that you're not saying maybe in order to avoid something uncomfortable. So you're not avoiding, first of all, having to make the decision. And I do this with my kids. I'm the first one. They're like, Mom, can I do this? And I'm like, maybe. And it's just to kind of put them off, right? Because I don't want to answer at that moment. But what's really important is to think at that time when you're saying maybe, give yourself a time frame of when you are going to decide if it's a yes or a no. Maybe it's, a couple of hours, but really you don't need more than like a day to make a decision. So for those of us that are kind of in this maybe place a lot in our lives, we need to ask ourselves, what does that maybe mean? Do you actually take the time to sit down and think about it? Do you think that you have to talk to other people and get their opinion? Because that doesn't help, because their experience of what they're sharing with you is based on their thoughts, right? It's not based on your thoughts. You could ask two different people and they would have two completely different experiences. So taking the time to kind of talk to people and ask questions, like say you're trying to decide whether to take a trip to South Carolina and you've never been there. And, maybe you have to decide between two different places and you're like putting it off and putting it off. Asking all these different people is going to give you a lot of different answers, right? So make sure that you don't spend a lot of time reaching outside of yourself for those answers, because you get to make any experience what you want to make it. Okay, so the other thing is make sure that you are not avoiding the decision out of fear. So if it's something that if you say yes to it, it might be really scary for you and you have to put yourself out there a little bit. Sometimes that makes us avoid making a decision. So really ask yourself, why am I not saying yes or no right at the moment? Is it because of fear? Am I afraid of something? And usually that fear is a good indicator that might be a good thing for you to choose to do, because you're going to grow from this experience, which we don't like, right? We like the growth afterwards, but not while we're doing it. Another thing is like, if say you make a decision, so say I'm trying to decide which preschool my kid should go to, and I'm just thinking about it, and I finally decide, and then he comes home crying every day and saying he hates it. If I hadn't made a really firm decision about that, I'm going to show up really kind of wishy-washy with him, and I'm not going to be that firm, like, help for him that he needs in that moment. So don't let your brain go to the grass is going to be greener somewhere else. Just decide to make whatever your choice is be the choice. All right, so we're going to practice something. We are going to practice the difference between a yes, a no, and a maybe. What that feels like in our bodies. Okay. All right, hold on just a second. Let me see what I have on this page here. We're talking about boundaries. Let me talk about boundaries first, and then we'll practice. Okay, so boundaries, when you think about boundaries, so I'll have clients come to me and say, this person's being really mean to me and taking advantage of me, and I need to set a boundary. Boundaries are not so that we can control the people in our lives, because people are going to be people. They're just going to do what they want to do. What boundaries are is sometimes they're spoken, but usually they're unspoken. And it's better to clean up your thoughts about the other person first, and then decide what that boundary is. So for example, if I had a friend who kept asking me to babysit her kids, and it was making me really mad. So I kept thinking, why doesn't she understand? Like, I've got so much to do. I've got my own family to worry about. And she keeps asking me and keeps asking me and keeps asking me. So I have this idea in my mind that friends should not ask their friends to babysit for them, right? Like, that's my manual that I've created for friends. And I've kind of assigned that to this friend. And it's making me really angry because she's not following that manual. So always get clear about what you're doing, because of course she should ask you because she thinks you're awesome. She trusts you with her kids, and that's what people do, right? Of course, your mother-in-law is going to keep asking you to come over every Sunday for dinner because you're fun to be with and she wants to be with you. So think about like what's happening in their mind and why they keep asking you to do this thing. And instead of thinking that they shouldn't be asking you, decide in your mind, okay, of course they're going to ask that. because they love me or they trust me or whatever it is. Now, what experience do I want to have right now? Do I want to keep allowing this, or do I want to set this boundary? So get rid of all the shoulds and only set boundaries from love. So what a boundary is it's how you're going to act in a certain situation. So here's what it is. It's telling yourself in your mind, if you do this thing, then I will do this. So for example, if you yell at me, I will leave the room. And a lot of boundaries are just like, we don't even think about them in our mind. Like if we're walking down the street and there's homeless people around, people, mentally ill people, and they're coming up to you and like yelling in your face, you already have this boundary in your mind. I don't let people yell in my face or like come and harm me. And so, but you don't go around just saying, everyone, this is my boundary. You don't walk up to me. This is, you know what I mean? Like it's something that's just already in your head. And it's like something that you've already set in your mind. And so it's really easy just to, follow that boundary. So usually our boundaries are already decided and we have it in our head. Sometimes we need to express those boundaries. So here's 3 different types of situations with boundaries. One is not having any boundaries at all. So Jamie, you mentioned that sorry, my dog, hold on just a second. Hey, go out. Should have known better than to let her be in here. Okay. So Jamie, you were mentioning how people just like ask you, are you kind of like the go-to yes person?
Yeah, I'm the no boundaries person for sure. I really struggle with that.
Okay. And what happens when you say yes automatically? Like in your mind, what happens?
In the moment, it feels good because I've avoided conflict and I've reinforced connection with that person. Mm-hmm. But then I end up like taking on the negative effects are usually things that affect me. So it increases like my personal stress. And often like I'll walk away and be like, why did I just say yes to that?
Right.
And it's not necessarily that I don't want to do it. It's just, is this like really the most essential thing for me to be doing right now? And that often means like, if I say, I can't say yes to everything. So what do I have to say no to because I said yes to this? But in the moment, it just feels right to be like, oh yeah, no big deal. I can help with that. I can do that.
Right. Yeah. So this is what happens sometimes is we are, we don't have any boundaries. And this creates a lot of resentment. I know you've mentioned that to me before, how you kind of feel this resentment afterwards. It also puts you in a victim place where you feel like, I'm always the one who has to do this. Like, poor me, this is so hard. And it can make us really angry. So this is not healthy, right? Another extreme is putting really hard boundaries around yourself, like this square here. And some people are like that, like it's just an automatic no all the time for some people. And that can be, you can take it a little bit too far because it can be really isolating. And that doesn't feel good either, and usually doesn't produce very good results. So what we want is this in between place where we have these boundaries that sometimes they're unspoken boundaries that we already know. And sometimes we have to decide what those boundaries are. And they're not against the other person because we're mad at them and we're trying to change them, but it's for me. Like I'm doing this because I love me and I love the other person and I want to have our friendship stay strong or our working relationship. So it's really good and empowering. It's more effective for you to set a boundary from a more empowering emotion, like instead of fear or resentment or frustration, more like love or understanding or respect rather than those negative emotions, because we can't control other people. We already know that, right? So, all right. So now let's go. Oh, does anyone have any questions about boundaries or how, how it works in their lives, anything like that? Okay. Let's go to our practice now. Okay, so first I'm going to teach you how to center. So you can do this sitting down or you can stand up. And what you're doing in centering is finding yourself in space and grounding yourself so that you can learn and understand what your body wants and your gut and your intuition wants. So just start by dropping down from your head down into your body and feel the weight of your body against your chair or wherever you're sitting or standing. And just start noticing the sensations that are in your legs and your arms, the feeling of the back of the chair against your back, your legs against the seat, your feet on the floor. And locate your center, which is right below your belly button. You can even put your hand there. And just drop down into that place of center. First, we're just going to center ourselves in our length. So as you inhale, lengthen your body, and you're going to be putting space in between your vertebrae and thinking about your dignity. Inhale, and then as you exhale, think about something that makes you smile. You're going to soften. So inhale to lengthen, and exhale to soften. And now just take your awareness to the outsides of your body, like the sides and your width. Even reach out your arms and feel your width and the people that are to the sides of you who are sharing your home with you or your neighborhood. Kind of take that width out, just feeling the collective energy of all the people. And then centering in our depth, just thinking about our body. First of all, what's our back, feeling our back, feeling what's inside of our body, and then feeling what's in the front of our body and what's in front of us or our future. Okay, now it's really important to just notice and acknowledge our emotions when we center. So can you all just share with me what your mood is? If you could give your mood a name, it can't just be good or calm. It needs to be a word. Think about the word that your mood is and put it in the chat box. I think mine is just grateful to have this opportunity to experience this with you guys. Peace, rested, present, nice. Good. Okay. Now we're going to talk about, so our conditioned tendencies as a 9 of checking out during important conversations that need to be had, buffering when uncomfortable emotions come up. You all know what buffering is, right? It's where we're trying to soften that feeling of feeling the discomfort. We immediately want to go to, going and avoiding what's going on and buffering from our emotions. Downplaying our amazingness. You guys find yourself doing that easily? People telling you that you're really good at something, you're like, nah, not amazing, people pleasing. These are all these conditioned tendencies that we've just practiced over and over as 9s, and they're embodied. They are part of our body. they've just become what we do normally. So with consent, what we're doing is we're learning how we can hold what we and others care about in choice and not just going right to those conditioned tendencies. Calmness, good. Thank you for sharing. Jamie, you said you feel like you have a lot of internal boundaries and not many external boundaries. Okay, what do you mean by that?
So I feel like on one side, I feel like I'm like people come up to me and I'll be, willing to say yes, but I feel like internally when something's going on, I have these like, if this, then that. And so their boundaries, like recently I had a family member who I noticed like something weird was going on with them, like physically. And I felt like I should say something about this. But then I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, if I acknowledge this and bring it up, then it makes it real. And I didn't want to feel like, because the reality is, if that was what it was, what I thought it was, that would just be like an indicator that that person that I loved was like growing older and like having different health. And that was like feelings that I didn't want to feel. So like those internal boundaries were like protecting me inside so that I didn't have to feel. But like, it's so funny because like externally, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But internally, I'm like, no. So it's kind of funny.
Sense.
I feel like double-sided there.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense a lot. It's like,
And I had to call a friend just to be like, just to get the confidence I needed to decide to say something about what I noticed, because I was also afraid of like embarrassing the person or like causing alarm for no reason. And so like I had to get like an expert opinion. I called like my one friend who's a nurse. I'm like, is this a big deal? Should I mention this? And then when she said, yeah, you might want to mention it, then I did. But it was so funny because I wasn't like confident to just be like, hey, this is just something weird I noticed. Like I couldn't just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just really good to see that what those tendencies are, right? And just acknowledge them. And you don't want to judge yourself because that's not useful. It doesn't create good results when we judge ourselves. But just kind of drop in and ask yourself, I wonder what was going on in that moment that I felt like I needed to say that or check with other people. Just good information, right? So we can notice that. So what is something that you have a hard time saying yes to? Let's talk about yes first. What is something that you have a hard time saying yes to? Think about that for a minute. Maybe joy, laughing out loud. I struggle with laughing out loud. Making something fun, maybe. Getting help from people. Do you struggle with that? Saying yes to that? So it's just think about that. If you can think of something, put it in the chat or you can say it out loud. It's really good to it's just as important to learn how to say yes from a good place and a like strong place as it is to say no. And I think even even as nines, people who are so quick, like Jamie said, to say yes to things, there are some things that it seems good say or to. Maybe it's those things that feel a little bit uncomfortable. I have a hard time with accepting help from people. A lot of times I'll just say, no, I'm fine. I can handle it, because I don't want to feel that discomfort of being vulnerable. So really, ask yourself, what are those things? And then you want to really say the yes with vigor. So can y'all stand up for a minute? If you don't want to stand up, you can do this sitting, but just make sure that you are grounded in your seat. And I'm going to show you what yes, this is embodiment practice for feeling a yes in your body. You can put one foot in front of the other And you're going to drop your weight down into your lower body. And you're going to put your arms out with your thumbs up, and you're going to lean into it and lean forward a little bit. Yes. So my hands are like this, and they're just kind of like this. Yes. So just practice that for a minute. Enter into it. It's like you're stepping into that. Yes. 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 What do you notice as you do this? Can you guys share with me what you notice in your body as you're doing this?
I tend to carry a lot of tension in my shoulders. And I think even that, like, kind of opening up your arms, really kind of like relax, like moves that tension out. So I think it opens me up some. And then of course, like the step forward.
Awesome. Good. Yeah. Go ahead, Ruth Ann.
I felt like when I did this, I was accepting, physically accepting the yes and saying it. And that was a whole new thing to me. And just now.
Awesome. To me, it feels like you're softening your heart and you're opening that up to allow something in. So like, yes, it feels a little vulnerable. Does it feel kind of vulnerable? It's like, ooh, I'm being seen right now. I'm allowing something. Myrna, what about you? Did you notice anything?
I think I would say release. Just maybe, or a sense of freedom.
Awesome. Love that.
Because I tend to be afraid to start new things or do something that I'm not sure that I can do.
Yeah. And so stepping into it like that is very like brave, right? Like, whoa. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. So remember how that felt. And now we're going to practice what no feels like. What are some things that you need to say, you need help saying no to? Think about that in your mind. Maybe it's responsibilities that you feel like someone else could handle just as well as you. Demands on your emotions or your time.
For a long time, when I first started working with Heather, I really I was doing everything. Because I was afraid that no one else would bring the same care and attention to those things. And so it was really hard for me to not be present. But I've been working on saying no to things and trusting that it doesn't always have to be me. So it's been, not that I'm the answer, but I just don't want it to fail.
Right. Good. Okay. So do y'all have something in your mind that you need help saying no to? I'm going to show you what the no looks like and feels like. Then stand up if you want to. You can do this sitting if you want to, but it's a bit more powerful when you're standing up. Okay, with this one, again, you're stepping into it and your arms are extended out in front of you, but this time your palms are forward. You're not going to lock your arms. You just, your elbows are unlocked, but your palms are forward and you're stepping into that no. Actually, even maybe down a little bit. So no. Actually, you could put it straight out. It doesn't matter. You could either do it down or you can do it straight out from your body like this. No.
No.
No. Say the words as you're doing it. Say it out loud.
No.
No. What does that feel like when you do that? No. Can you feel the difference between that and the yes?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely like this boundary. So Della, you felt it was calming. That's interesting. The no was calming. I wonder why. Tell me why you think it feels calming to do that. No. So when someone comes and asks you, will you, I don't know, what's something that you get asked a lot? Oh, so Della's saying it feels good to say no because it's kind of a relief. Like, oh, that feels good. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Because I feel like it's your spirit is saying, wow, like thank you for honoring me, right? So it's very affirming for sure. Okay, so again, there's that no, and it's a boundary that you're putting up. No. And then you feel that. And so it's not this wishy-washy, no. It's like it's a definite no that you can feel. And I just want to show you there's sometimes you want to say no and not like a boom way, but more of we call it like an intimate decline. So this is when you're saying no to someone that's close to you. And it's more gentle, but also from a place of love for yourself and the other person. And with this, it's you imagine them walking towards you, and they're like, okay, here's my request. You're taking their arm and then you're pushing it and you're walking the other way with them. So it kind of is like this, no. So it's kind of hard to show you without having another person doing it with me. But if they were walking towards me like this, I would take their arm with my hand and I'd push it away and I'd turn the other way and walk with them the other way. So it's like you're with them still, but also it's a no. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can kind of make it like this, like no.
Interesting. Mhm.
Yeah. Has a different feeling than no.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So here's the maybe. And like we talked about before, sometimes maybe is when we're not clear on the answer yet, but we need to say something to the person. Maybe a maybe is just like, I need more time. What do you want to say maybe to? It's to honor yourself so that you can have that time to decide. And like we talked about before, it's not so that we can sit in indecision for days on end. This is what maybe looks like. So think of a small decision that you need to make and you haven't decided. Like, what are you going to have for dinner tonight? Or do I want to go to that social event this weekend? Just kind of something small that's not major, but you're trying to decide. This helps you, this kind of helps you decide what you want. So the maybe looks like this. You're drawing, your hands are down like this, and your palms are down, and you're drawing a half circle around you with your hands like this. So it's down, but you're like this. So maybe. So practice stepping into that. Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. It's not the yes one. No, it feels different.
So tell me what you notice when you do this as opposed to the other ones.
It was not like it wasn't a yes or a no. No, that's how my body felt. It was like, oh, this is not in between.
Mm-hmm.
It's different, but it's a maybe, but it's inclusive.
Right. Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts on how that felt to draw that circle around you? It's like it's kind of like I'm protecting myself in this moment, right? And I'm going to decide. Okay. Anyone else have anything else to say about that? So the reason that we want to feel what a yes and a no and a maybe feels like is that it helps us to discern what it is that we really want and to kind of test it out in your body. So if someone comes to you and asks you for something, or if an opportunity comes up and you haven't decided what you want to do about it, think about the opportunity and practice those 3 things. What does yes feel like? Okay, so for example, say our neighbors want to go to dinner with us this Friday, and I'm trying to decide if I want to do that. Yes. How does that feel? No. How does that feel? Maybe. And I think as 9s, maybe is going to feel the most comfortable to us, because that's just like, okay, that gives me a little more time. That's good too. But just remember that our conditioned tendencies under pressure make us give an automatic response. And that response is either towards, or it's away, or it's against. And this gives you a choice. Having more kind of moves and that feel in your body gives you more choice in those moments. So as 9s, we're really, really good at saying yes with resentment. So it's kind of like we major in yes and we minor in no's. And as we grow and become more strong, you're going to be able to say no with softness, but with firmness, so that it doesn't feel so scary and like, ugh. I love this quote I heard. It's boundaries are the distance at which I can love myself and love you at the same time. I really liked that a lot. So you can stay in your dignity and say no, and not jump into that, this is a problem kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to practice one more thing before we're done. This is called a centered grab. And this is another way to help us to discern, and how do I take a moment to remember what it is that I care about and then move from that place instead of just responding right away. So just to demonstrate this, I'm going to have Ruth Ann, you're going to ask me to help you with something. And so maybe it's, okay, ask me if I'll help with the Halloween party in my son's 2nd grade class. Okay.
Okay.
So pretend like you're like my friend that's the room mom, and she's coming to me and asking me if I'll help with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to the side like this, and it's like you're coming towards me to ask that. And I'm turning to the side, and I'm just standing here for a minute, and I'm going to nod when I'm ready, and then
Okay.
you're going to come and ask me that. And then when I decide what my answer is, I'm going to turn to you and tell you what the answer is. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Hi, Heather. Could you come and work with their room mothers in getting this Halloween party together for Jeremy's class?
So I would like to say yes, but I've got a lot going on right now, and I need to just kind of attend to these other things that I have to do. So I'm really sorry. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a response without centering first. So what did you notice in my response? What kind of body language or tones in my voice did you notice?
It didn't sound like you were fully convinced. Like I felt like, well, maybe I could take a couple things off your plate for you. Like I think if I was talking to you, I could be like, well, what if you just didn't do that?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, it was tentative.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of wishy-washy. Okay. All right. So now let me just show you. I'm going to center myself. So I'm going to turn this way. and center myself. So it's just a quick thing, right? It's dropping down into my center, feeling my dignity, softening and opening, lengthening and softening. Okay, go ahead, come in.
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Would you be able to help with the Halloween party with me for Jeremy's class?
Thank you so much for asking me. I just got a little too much on my plate this week, but thanks anyway. What did you notice that time? Did you notice anything different?
Felt a little more like you had more firmly decided.
And I'll just tell you from this end, it felt just a lot more calm. It didn't feel like a scary thing to have to do. It was just like, I got this, right? So Della says it sounded like I might be able to talk you into it with a little more pressure on that. I think you were talking about that first one, Della. Yeah, you didn't say I'd love to, but on the second one, yeah. So yeah, and did it feel like I was being mean or anything? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah, and that's, to me, I still felt caring, like I cared about what you were asking, but at the same time, I felt calm about my no. It wasn't a threat. All right, Jamie.
Can I throw something in here?
Yeah.
Just that I heard this years ago, and I shared it with both of my sisters who are really boundaryless, each of them. But I just thought it was terrific to be able to say it when you can't say no and you're working up to no, to say that doesn't work for me, or even I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for me. And it's not as a cop out, but for some people, they can say that, and it's sort of this learning to say no, but it sort of gets you even thinking that you don't have to say yes all the time, but you can say no, that doesn't work for me.
I like that.
And cool. I just think it's a helpful thing to know too.
Yeah. And sometimes it's good to have some practiced little phrases in your head like that, that just feel like resonate with you, that you can just say easily. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Either Jamie or Della, would you guys like to be next practicing? I know Della, you're not on camera.
I can do it. I just I might work up a cough, so we'll see how long I can go.
No worries. Okay, so Jamie's going to be the person, and Jamie, what is your grab? What's the grab going to be?
Oh man, my stuff is mostly related to work, because that's where like I want to show up and be successful, but then I sometimes get distracted by doing for other people, and it takes me off of whatever I need to do. So, right now I have a coworker who is a Enneagram 7. So I don't know if you guys know much about the other numbers, but he's a future thinker oriented, and we were talking about a project that we're working on together. And he starts going into all these details and complicated things about how he wants to film this project we're going to work on. And so I'm trying to think of the question that would be good to ask is just asking for something ridiculous, like 6 cameras, 30-minute sessions. I don't know, like maybe that would be good enough. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but it's when I hear those things, for me, it's a lot of work.
So, so like Jamie, would it be okay if we do 6 cameras and 30-minute sessions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and
each video session.
What's
So
that?
you want to stand up each video session.
Yeah, okay, for each video.
That gives
session.
you more context.
Okay, if I can remember.
Guys, I have an obscure job. All right.
Okay,
what do you want me to
so turn to the side, and I'm walking into you. Okay, so I'm walking forward.
Am I doing this without the centering first?
Yeah, without the centering first. So think about when I ask you the question, think about the response and then face me and tell me the response. Okay.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. I'm ready.
Jamie, what would you think about if we had 6 cameras for each session and we did it in a 30-minute time period?
That's a really interesting idea. It sounds like a lot. Maybe we could think about how to come up with a little less crazy situation. I don't know if I'd say crazy, but something a little bit easier to handle. That's probably what I would say, just naturally.
Okay. Okay. What did you notice in your body as you were responding?
I felt kind of like flippant, I guess, like not really wanting to say no. Somewhat probably still permissive. I think I probably could still be convinced. I still think I'm deferring to the other person.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of noticed just in your body language, you were kind of looking around and kind of shifting around like that.
Yeah.
I could tell that you were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I don't like the conflict.
Yeah.
But we're going to do what I want to do. That's what I'm always afraid to happen. And then I'm going to get stuck with it. All right. Do you want to do it again?
Okay. So this time I want to, you want to get centered first.
Okay.
So stand there for a minute. I'll help you drop down into feel the weight in your legs. Drop down into that center of your body. If you need to put your hand on your belly to think about that center. Lengthen as you inhale. As you exhale, soften. Think about something that makes you smile. Think about widening into the space. What's important to you. And tell me when you're ready.
Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, Jamie, I was wondering, what would you think about if we had, for each session, we had 6 cameras and we got it all in a half hour? What would you think about that?
I think that is a really interesting idea, but for this particular project, we need to keep things short. And so that the more cameras we have, it's going to take more time for us on the editing end. And so for this project, I think it'd be best for us to keep it simple.
Thank you. Okay. Wow. What a difference. Right? Yeah. What did you notice? And I'll tell you what I noticed.
Between the two.
Did that feel confrontational to you? Did it feel as confrontational?
I felt solid. I think in the back of my mind, I'm still afraid for like pushback. But it still felt like a lot better than before.
Right. Something I noticed with your voice is instead of kind of going up as you're saying their things, you kept it like down. Like, this is what I mean. Instead of da 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was definitely a lot more still and grounded, and like you felt what you were saying a lot more.
Yeah.
Anyone else notice anything that they want to share?
I noticed that same thing. Your voice seemed firmer too, yet not louder, not softer, just this is how I see it. Like,
yeah. And what's interesting with this is that it also it makes it feel like you've got some space between you and this situation. It's like, it's not this big thing that's up in your face like this. It's like, it's down there and you can kind of look at it just from a bigger perspective.
You know, it's so funny is I find in those situations, because I don't generally lead with that, that when I do lead strongly, people are like shocked or like they're surprised by it.
Mm.
So they'd be like, oh, are we okay? And I'm like, yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. So, it can create some discomfort when we start expressing our boundaries, when it's like, you've been doing this dance with this person all your life or all the time you've known them. And all of a sudden you're changing up that dance a little bit. So you can expect it to feel a little bit uncomfortable for sure. Yeah. But they'll get used to it. Do it 2 or 3 times. And they're like, hey, this is the new Jamie. I like it. She knows what she wants. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So this is, we always want to just experience these things. We have these super highways that we get on in our brain where we're just taking care of everyone and, this wishy-washy place. And we want to be able to get back to our own center line and just hold those boundaries. Decide that we know, because we really do know what we want deep inside. You just need to take a little time to center yourself and feel what your intuition is telling you. And as nines, we lead with our gut. So it's in there, right? It's just taking that time to come in and ask yourself what that is. So thank you all so much for coming today. This was super fun to do. I am starting a group coaching program in October. For those of you that are watching this on replay, what it is we're going to have a cohort of people, but like 6 to 10 people I'm going to take through for 6 months, and we're going to work together doing these kind of practices, somatic practices, and also just learning how to overcome these conditioned tendencies as a 9. We have a lot of them, and we think that it's just the way it is because it's the way that we've thought our whole lives. Like we've taken on these beliefs about ourselves and about our story, the way that we relate to the world, and we think that it just is what it is. And I want to empower you to be able to move past those conditioned tendencies and live a more purposeful life as a peacemaker, because we really do have amazing gifts to share with the world, and there's a need for that. We're needed for sure. But being able to just seeing, that change just in that moment with Jamie, like she's a peacemaker, and I'm sure her coworkers really feel that. But for her to be able to come forward and have that confidence it feels good for her, and also for the people that she is interacting with, it feels a lot more comfortable to them too. It helps them to feel more confident, funny enough, because we kind of mirror each other. So in these, we're going to have weekly lesson modules that I'll send you that you can do on your own time. And we're going to do this on Marco Polo. So I'm going to share with you the lesson module, and then we're going to kind of, you can jump in on Marco Polo when you want and share your experiences with the group. And then we'll also have group coaching sessions once a week. And what's really awesome about group coaching as opposed to one-on-one coaching is that watching other people, just sitting and observing other people getting coached on the same things that you deal with is really, really powerful, because you're not the one in the hot seat and you can just kind of take it all in. The thing it does is it helps you to see that you're just normal, right? Like other people have these same insecurities and all that as well. So I'm actually in a group coaching program right now, and it's been a really powerful experience for me. And I think there's a place for both. one-on-one and group. But if you're someone who loves to connect with other people and learn from other people, group coaching is a really good option for you. I haven't put it on my website yet because I have had the busiest week of my life. I just designed this journal that I sold it. So I'm giving it to my group, but also I am selling them coaches, and I've sold like 500 of them. And so I've got to get all those out tomorrow before I leave town. And then I'm going to create a page for my group coaching program. So you can go on there and see all the details and reserve your spot if you would like it. So let me know if you have any questions and schedule a one-on-one consultation if you'd like to talk about it. Thank you all so much. Love you.
Thanks, Heather.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.